the University of Georgia has absolutely got to make Kirby Smart aware that he's on the hot seat, because there's been another player that has been caught going over 100 miles an hour, and Kirby Smart's players are endangering people. These are not players that are smoking a little weed in their dorm room or nowadays their estate. These are players who are out in fast cars who have only driven a couple of years in their life, and they have no respect for the laws of the road. We saw a player wreck a car into a house. We now have another player. Caleb, it's well over a dozen. I don't even know how many it is at this point. Perhaps you do. But if you're the University of Georgia, you've got to take a stand and do something.
Yes, and remember that, guys. This is Nitro Tuggle, Georgia's wide receiver. This is part of the story we covered last week with Nitro Tuggle and Marcus Easley both getting arrested at different times. Tuggle reckless driving, Marcus Easley crashed into a house. We have more details on the Tuggle arrest, and it's more disturbing than we thought. Because first off, reckless driving 107 miles per hour. That is something we probably expected, right? But it wasn't confirmed. 42 miles over the speed limit. So he was doing it on Georgia State Route 10, on the Georgia State Route 10 loop outside of Athens in a 2021 Dodge Charger, and his girlfriend was in the car. Here's where it gets even more disturbing. There were other motorists on the highway at the time. Typically when they do this, they try to do it at areas and periods where nobody's on the highway, right?
Yes.
That's one. Two, when Tuggle was pulled over, he stopped his vehicle in the right lane rather than the shoulder, which I don't get. And then also,
wait, he pulled it over where?
He stopped. He was asked. A police officer pulled him over, and he stopped in the right lane rather than the shoulder.
That's like the scene from Black Sheep when they're accidentally on nitrous, and they pull over in the middle of the road, and the cop says, you know, mostly when I pull people over, they pull over on the shoulder, not the middle of the road. And Chris Farley says, how fast were we going? 70, 80? He goes, 7. You're going 7. Because they're high on nitrous. But the Georgia players, fortunately, aren't high on nitrous, but maybe you want them to be so they'd slow down a little bit.
Well, the police officer says here's where it gets crazy. Not only did he pull over on the shoulder, when Tuggle was instructed to exit the vehicle, he was about to get out without putting it in park.
Okay.
And so that's when he ended up being placed under arrest. So let's think about all this. You're going 107 miles an hour. You pull over in the right lane, not the shoulder, and then you try to get out of the vehicle without putting it in park.
Okay, it's hard to believe that he wasn't intoxicated, but I'm sure that that's the first thing they ask. With the body cams now, you don't get away with any of that. So I don't think he was intoxicated, but he sounded intoxicated, or he just sounded really immature, which he is, which is why I don't know if I'm Kirby Smart, what I'm doing other than pulling my hair out. I would like to institute a rule that you can't get a sports car until you've been at the University of Georgia for 2 years. But then that'll cost you prospects, because goodness knows that Carson Beck has shown Georgia players they have to have a Lambo to be significant. So, Caleb, I don't know what you do about this with Kirby Smart. I think this is the administrative level. And the one thing I always liked about Nick Saban, and you made reference to this early in the program, I do think he wanted to do things the right way. He wanted to build his ego. He wanted to build his resume. He wanted to show off his hubris. But ultimately, he wanted, I do believe, what's right for the sport. I don't know that Kirby Smart has that trait. I think Kirby Smart might just be a facsimile of Saban, a copy, except the bottom corner was cut off about how he really loves college football and he cares about people in his community, be it Tuscaloosa or Athens. I don't know that Kirby Smart has that. I think at the end of the day, he believes to himself, if I win 7 national championships like Nick, then everybody's going to love me. And it doesn't matter if they go 280 miles an hour in a Lambo. I think that's the way he thinks.
I can't go there. I think he's actually having a harder time than we think with this. Look, my thing is, like, most of his punishments for the players that have done things, Dave, if you took them in a vacuum, they're appropriate punishments for these traffic accidents. These are the type of suspensions you do. This is how you punish players of things you deem fair. I don't know.
No, he has to come to the table if I'm administration, and he has to give me more. He has to say, if a guy's caught once, I'm going to put a tracking device on his car so I know if he's going over the speed limit. I'm taking it a way big step further, Caleb.
Well, I yes, but the thing is, all these guys that have been caught, they've all been just caught once. Like, and so like here's it, like it's like the rule is fair as far as like you don't want to ruin a kid's life for making a dumb traffic decision, even if they are endangering other people's lives, because we've all been, I mean, look, we've all done dumb traffic things in college, haven't we? Like,
yeah, done
dumb
traffic things this morning.
So I mean, when you say that, I just think that it's hard for me to say that Kirby Smart doesn't care. Kirby Smart is more of a carbon copy of Nick Saban than I've ever seen a carbon copy of another coach in a lot of ways. I think I mean, was Gene Stallings maybe a carbon copy of Bear Bryant? I don't know, maybe. But like,
not as good of a coach, but definitely a carbon copy. Adam says Kirby Smart is compromised because he sees himself as a Bulldog for life. Saban just saw Bama as a place to succeed. I'm going to flip-flop that a little bit, if you don't mind. I think that actually Kirby Smart is more tied to the university, so he would be more apt to come down on these juvenile discipline issues, as opposed to Saban, I think, was always willing to say, I could go turn Washington into a 3-time national champion.
I think you're right, and we forget this. Georgia is one of the easiest jobs to succeed at. Kirby, when he got to Georgia, one of the reasons that Kirby is this way, it's actually not Kirby, it's a Georgia culture thing, because I'm going to say, like, I think I've told you the story before. Guys, I mean, you know, I don't like when schools do this, but Georgia gets to do this for the Mark Richt years. During the Mark Richt years, Georgia can literally say they cost themselves a national title because of their commitment to integrity. I mean, I think you would agree with me on that, right, Dave? Under Mark Richt, they were very committed to integrity as a program.
Yes. I think that before the money got wacko, that they would, and before Nick Saban did what he did at Alabama, Georgia was of the mindset, win 10 games, have a squeaky clean program. That's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And then they got frustrated in the 2010s of constantly losing the big ones to Alabama or whoever. And then they fired Mark Richt. They bring in Kirby Smart and they say, we don't want morals anymore. We're tired of these class standards for the athletes. We're tired of these punishments, when they do things wrong. Just win, baby. And Kirby Smart said, I can do that for you easily. And so this is, I mean, if you think about it, this culture issue is embedded in why Kirby Smart was hired in the first place. They didn't want the Rick Barnes squeaky clean coach anymore, doing all things right by the book. They wanted the coach throwing integrity to the wayside and saying, you know what? I tried being nice and it didn't work. So middle fingers to everybody. I'm going to go win.
At the end of the day, do you think Georgia's administration will take the stance that I did, and that is you're officially on the hot seat if this stuff continues to happen?
No.
Or you're already on the hot seat, or they championships?
No, I think Georgia is bitter at all the national titles they missed out on in the 2000s and 2010s because of their integrity. And I think their thought process is, we tried integrity, it didn't work, and we're not going back to integrity because nobody else did it.
I think they should really look into this, and somebody referenced this on the message board. It should be Georgia football safely delivered by Uber, and that's their title sponsor. I mean, that's the worst idea.
No, it's not. And look, the thing I would warn to Georgia is that there is a healthy balance. Like, yeah, you tinker with the rules a bit, but Dave, you know this. You throw integrity to the wind, your program is wrecked for like a generation after. I mean, Florida still. I think Florida, tell me if I'm wrong, I think Florida still has trouble recruiting kids because of the culture that people know was around when Urban Meyer was there. And a lot of parents don't want their kids involved in that.
Derek says, I had a G35 before I was old enough to drink, and my name was on the title. I went 155 in it on 840 about 20 years ago. I was dumb too. Fastest you've been in a car, Caleb?
I was a teetotaler. So like, I probably never, I mean, not that I didn't speed as a teenager, but I probably never got above 90. So I'm a genuine. Yes, I follow the rules and I haven't put anybody's lives at risk. Soft, very soft of me, guys.